Hello and welcome to Drive and Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we cover two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. And be sure to head on over to our Patreon. We have fun bonus conversations over there. We fight over there. We do a lot of fun stuff. And for $5 a month, you get that content, but no main content is locked behind the Patreon. But getting into this Tuesday's movie, we are talking about Mickey 1 from 1965, starring Warren Beatty and Arthur Penn. I knew nothing about this movie, picked it because the star, Warren Beatty and Arthur Penn, had worked in another movie before together, or they worked on it after this one, Bonnie and Clyde, which Bonnie and Clyde rocks. That's a great movie. So I was like, oh, let's do this one. It's about a comedian on the run from the mob. Sounded tense. I don't know. It's like there. It kind of works.
Comics. This movie's got to be really funny, right?
Yeah,
It's
you
got to
would
be
think.
he's telling all these jokes, he's wisecracking,
Is
and
it,
gets into some really zany situations running from the mob.
it sounds like a good idea, but imagine like like the least funny comic you could ever put into a movie. Did he ever make you laugh? Ever?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't think that. I think that was
Uh,
sarcastic. You're being sarcastic.
No, I'm in other movies.
Oh, another. Yes, I mean, yeah, Bullworth, right? But I've never seen it. But um but yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. He's not a funny comic, and I actually read some of like the info about this movie.
Reviews.
Yeah, and Warren Beatty also agrees that he is not a funny comic in this movie. And the reviews for this one are pretty bad. Um, but I did see some modern reviews, and it seems like people have given this a positive reappraisal. So why don't we dig into it, kind of discuss it, see how it goes. But I guess one thing I was kind of struck by, this was made in 1965, and I was expecting something a little more stylized, but this is definitely based off of like French New Wave movies, kind of like a very European for an American flick for sure. A lot of like weird shots, no talking, just faces reacting. Some cuts that don't really make sense. Story kind of meanders, um, which I think is cool in an idea, but I don't think the story was interesting enough to hold my attention with that style. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it had a really interesting style, but I really just was not
no,
connecting with the story that much.
no, I wasn't either. It's just very, I don't know. I don't know how much you can fumble something because I feel like this movie now, the plot almost reminds me of like a Safdie Brothers movie and could be tense and funny, have that nice mix to it. We don't really get that here because it's like the movie opens with title sequence of Warren Beatty getting drunk with a girl, and I guess he gets in trouble with the mob. It is never explained exactly what he did. It's like he talks to the guy who owes him money. He's like, "How much do I owe? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000? What I do? Did, like steal money from them? Did I take his girl?" No answer. And the movie does not want to answer this question. He's just in trouble.
I thought they kind of did because
I guess towards the end, yeah.
because he does have like a little flashback like mid movie where they act like where that guy he was talking to like they replay that scene but like the guy actually responds and he's just like maybe it was all the parties you threw, maybe it was all the the women, all the expensive taste you had, like basically like he was living the real high life and like basically like the mob was buying all that stuff for him and he didn't really care.
Yeah,
And then
it wasn't one singular thing.
yeah, and he was like, well, you just did it just by living your life or whatever. So
Hmm.
I think they kind of said, he lived a really extravagant lifestyle and he wanted to leave being like a comic and basically they were like, you have to be a comic. We own you pretty much.
Yeah, except there's like the one line that's really weird at the beginning when he's on stage being a comic. He's like, "Oh, I couldn't be funny to save my life," right? And it makes it seem like, oh, he's not a funny guy, which his comedy is not funny. But it later in the movie we find out he's like a comic genius, and everyone thinks he's funny. Like he's like a prodigy of comedy. Because he performs at like burlesque shows and just kind of riffs, and he's like one of those comics that like makes fun of people but also makes fun of himself. Like there's even like that one scene where he shows up at one of these burlesque places and he finishes the guy's joke up front. Except that guy ends up thinking it's funny. He's like, "Oh, get up here, perform. You're so funny." I swear to you, 100% of comics would probably beat you, would like fight you during that.
Oh yeah. I mean, but because I mean, obviously like those jokes like were recycled
Yes,
jokes.
yeah,
So the comic that was on stage was well aware. It's like, oh, okay, so he's one of us. And that's
yeah.
why he was like, yeah, yeah, give him a shot. But like
Hmm.
I imagine if like any other comedian went to like another comic show and they started doing all that, like everyone would be like, shut the hell up. They're like, or or get it, or
Get
like just kick
out.
him out.
Yeah, I get it. You've been to one of my shows before. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah,
Like you just go to like whoever, like you go to like someone really famous and you go like get all their jokes like they're going on tour, like they're Grateful Dead, and you're just yelling out
uh-huh.
like all the jokes. Like,
Yeah, that's a one-way ticket to get kicked out. You're at Adam Sandler's show and you're singing the songs. But I think that's actually okay. I think that would be fine.
do you
Right?
approve of that?
I approve of that. I think Adam would. I think Adam would be all for that. Um, but yeah, so that is the basic plot of this movie. He goes on the run. He gets a social security card and takes on the identity uh, of a really confusing name. So he just everyone calls him Mickey One, and then it becomes just a hangout movie where he's like where he takes on a Polish persona and he hangs out like in this like home where like poor Polish people live.
Yeah, well,
Oh.
he runs away from Detroit because that's where they are. They're in Detroit and he goes to
Hmm.
Chicago and he eventually tries to like to be like an honest like lifestyle
Yeah.
or like kind of like an everyman where he goes out and works like manual labor and he tries to do whatever he can to earn money.
Yeah, he's like a garbage boy, which is literally he just like dumps plates into the trash and he gets his hands all in it too.
Oh yeah. And
Hmm.
that's where he meets that other girl, that the girl that he was with, like that
Hmm.
they meet each other at like that labor area where that's but he gets bored eventually and he ends up going, that's why he goes to that comic show, like that burlesque
Yeah.
show, because it's just like it's like I just want to do something, he can't let it go. He's got to be funny.
Yeah, which is so silly. But yeah, he can't leave it behind, so he's like he becomes a comic again and he's kind of at a low ranking comedy show and he just does jokes and people love him. He's like he does some really great work here. And he gets like a manager as well, and he wants to stay low because he thinks the mob is after him. Even though there's like a big dilemma in this movie because it takes place over 4 years, and what becomes a dilemma with this girl that he actually tells her he's running away is that he's like, oh, I don't know if they're after me or not. And this and the girl's kind of like, why it doesn't matter, just do it, you gotta live your dreams kind of deal. But of course she ends up ruining it for him.
Well, yeah, he's trying to lay really low because at first, he does get offered a role to be like to do like the stand-up bit at that
Hmm.
smaller tavern or whatever, and they're like, okay, this is like your little gig, but he has like an agent who really wants him to like hit it big because he thinks he can make it. So it's like, let's go do
Hmm.
the big club downtown, and I guess he goes there on Warren Beatty's like without him knowing, and he tells like this really big shot out there. He's like, hey, I got this great comic. He's funny. And at first, the guy like doesn't want anything to do with it. He's like, "All right, fine, I'll check him out." And then when he tells Warren Beatty about it, Warren Beatty's like, "No, like I don't want to do that. Like I
Yeah,
just
I'm out of here. And this is after they watch him and they like want him. What a weird character, the owner of this like big club. He's like a health nut, like, which I guess is weird to see in a movie like this. He's like peeling an apple at the beginning, and I don't know, it just seemed like an odd fellow.
it was really odd because he had this weird aura about him where he's like, oh yes, I'll invite him to my show and he will have a good time.
Yeah, I
And
don't. Were they trying to make it seem like, oh, he's actually a bad guy? Like, they're trying to hint at that. I don't
I thought
know.
that that's what I thought they were doing. Like I thought they were trying to
Okay.
make it like he was like a bad guy or like he had like connections to the mob, and that was like the whole thing Warren Beatty was wondering if he had, I mean whether the guy did or didn't have connections to the mob, I think that that's what they were hinting at
Yeah,
least.
they were trying to give a sense of like maybe paranoia that anybody could be out here to get him.
Well, that's what
Um,
he was saying like that whole time. He's like, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust nobody. I can't trust him. I can't trust you. To like even that girl.
mhm.
So
Yeah, and let me tell, I did not like a lot of the scenes with the girl. I felt like that those were a little long, little rough. Where he would just like riff, like she would say something, he would make a joke, and it was just joke after joke after joke. I don't know.
yeah, the romance of this movie or like their chemistry like really fell flat for me. Like I
Hmm.
just did not. I didn't really care that much, and I really didn't believe that they were that into each other
No. Yeah.
because she just shows up on his doorstep because she wants to find a place to stay, and I guess like his landlord or whatever like lets her stay in his place or something.
Whatever that is. Yeah, she's like, "Oh yeah, she's living here with you." And he's like, "No, no," but I guess she has to. Um
And of
what do
course she immediately falls in love with him like right away.
Of course. Yeah, it's a movie. But there's that one weird scene. Both of these movies that we're talking about this week have some weird editing choices where he's like, "I'm gonna clean the room," and then it like speeds up the footage of him cleaning the room.
And that never
Okay.
happens again.
Yeah, it's not a zany comedy really, but that happens. There is some weird stuff dotted in this movie. There's a Japanese man who drives a horse and carriage that just kind of waves to him throughout the movie, and then also
He's like
does
a
like,
mime.
yeah, he's a mime and he does like a show for them all to watch, and that takes a whole scene of the movie of him doing like his show to everybody.
His
Um
yes machine.
yes, yes, machine. Yeah. I don't know, just kind of odd little part of the movie. I don't know. I'm trying to think about what makes this movie not work. I think maybe it's a mix of the performances and maybe just not living up to the full potential of what the plot could be. Instead, it lets it like kind of flounder a little bit.
That's I mean, I guess if the movie was trying to go for a lot more tense situation of what I
Hmm.
thought they were going for, and it seemed like more they were trying to be like more stylistic, but it didn't really work that well. And I was reading a lot of the reviews for this movie because I was just trying to figure out like what everybody else thought of this. You know, is
Yeah.
this and it's this movie apparently got trashed originally,
Yes. Yeah.
and they call this movie very pretentious, is what I saw multiple times. That this is a very pretentious movie,
I could see that.
and honestly, I don't I probably wouldn't argue too hard for that because it was just it felt like it was trying to be a lot more artistic than what it actually was, and
Hmm.
I would have preferred it to be a lot more grounded and go after the aspects of him being completely paranoid and whether he wasn't sure or not that the mob
Hmm.
was there. And they kind of play into that, like even towards like the end of the movie, you know, he's just like going out of his mind because he can't even figure out if you know he's being targeted still or if those people are bad or what. And we never really get that answer.
No, and the style ends up kind of killing that too because there's that scene where he gets an interview with one of the comics and he doesn't know who it is interviewing him. It's like he's sorry, an audition. And it's like the light shining on him and he's like kind of babbling, like talking to himself and mixing comedy. And he's got this light and you don't know who's there. And it's so stylish. And I don't know. I just never felt like it was that tense of a scene. There's just something about it that just didn't click.
Yeah, well, because that was like the whole thing. Like he thought that the guy, what was his name, Frank Castle or Ed Castle or whatever.
Something like
I
that,
think,
yeah.
bet the club owner.
Ed
He thought
Castle.
he.
Frank Castle's the Punisher.
No, that's right. Uh, but yeah, they thought uh he thought he was in with the mob, and we never really Well, I think that guy was actually involved with the mob
Yes,
because
yeah, it gets revealed like really late because he almost kills Warren Beatty because he gets a hold of a gun, right, and like points it at him.
no, it's the broken bottle or whatever.
That's right, the broken bottle. Yeah.
But no, I realized he was a part of the mob because that guy at the very beginning of the movie that Warren Beatty has talked to, or Ruby
Hmm.
Lop or whatever, and they were kind of like hinting that was his friend. He's like, here, just call this guy up, tell him about it. And that guy was just basically like, oh, Ruby Lop's dead. Like
Yep.
he already knew.
Hmm.
So I think that's implied that he did have some connections to the mob or whatever, because like you said, that Warren Beatty confides into this woman and tells her about his past, and she immediately goes and tells the first guy that she sees.
Yeah. Well,
It's
doesn't she
like,
go to like that guy and is just like, "Hey, I need you to get something. You got to convince him to do this." And of course, word gets around after that.
yeah, and they're not being very they're not being very secretive about it, because when he does go to that meeting, he brings her with him, and
Mm-mm.
that guy was like looking at her and being like, it's like, huh? Like, did you not talk to him type of thing? And he's just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he gets forced out into the limelight. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think I'm trying to remember how this one ends.
So how it ends is that
It's very fresh
he,
on your mind.
well, yeah, he kind of succumbs to the paranoia because he's at like a point in his life where he's just like, I'm tired of running.
That's right. And he's like,
Yeah, he's like, I basically like, I'm ready to go turn myself in to these people. And he's gotten to the point where now he's looking for the mob, so that way he could basically just be like, take me away type of thing.
yeah, exactly. He's trying to confess to someone. He keeps going places and he's like, I need to talk to the mob. I need to turn myself in. But
Exactly.
yeah, because he's like all beat up and he's just like, I think at the end he's just like, I'm tired of running. It's tired of it.
And which is funny to me because it's like, okay, well, you only went to like one city, and
Hmm.
and
And it
I
can't
was
be
like,
that far away.
I was like, Detroit and Chicago are not exactly like thousands and thousands of miles away. So
No.
it's
Yeah, he could
uh
probably go out to California and hide.
yeah, like I think you could try a little harder with your hiding game, but
He got tired of
but
hitchhiking on trains.
I guess, but he eventually does get find somebody with connections to the mob, and he goes back to the club owner and basically is like, I'll do it. I'll go do your club gig.
Hmm.
Pretty much like knowing that, thinking he's going to die by
Hmm.
taking this gig. And, even like his girlfriend's like, why don't you just run away? Like, just do it again. He's like,
Hmm.
nah, I can't do it no more.
Hmm.
And, and at the end of the movie, he's just standing there. Like, he goes out and he does like his act, but it's really, really awkward. And like, it's like, Georgie, like he's looking for his agent. It's like, Georgie, where are you, George?
Yeah, where are you? And but then he like throws a joke in it, and like people are
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, but then he keeps talking to the spotlight again, thinking that I guess he's going to get gunned down on the stage, which I think it's implied that he did,
I don't know.
because the movie ends with the camera panning out and that he's like outside,
Hmm.
and like, and the spotlight's pointed at him, he's playing the piano. So I'm like, I took it as like, okay, I guess they shot him on stage, I guess. I
I
don't
didn't
know.
know. I didn't know what to make of it personally. I thought it was an odd ending to an odd movie because it seemed like he was like playing like a huge venue or something. I don't know. I think that was you sent me a GIF about this like afterwards. Is like what the hell is this what the hell was that? And that's kind of how I felt after this movie. I was just kind of like, huh. I don't know what I was supposed to make of that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they were trying really hard to be artistic, but
Hmm.
it didn't connect with me.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I really love French movies. I'm gonna make my own, and then it just came out messy. It just didn't. It, it was imitating style, but I mean, obviously, Arthur Penn would go on to make really good movies. So I mean, like he tried something, didn't work. He'd go on to make some great stuff.
Well, that's what they said. Like they're like you said, like he was butting heads all the time with Warren Beatty, but then Warren Beatty's like, "Hey, you want to do this Bonnie and Clyde movie?"
Yeah, I read a book about the making of that movie, and like, I mean, Warren Beatty had so much trouble getting that movie off the ground. It was probably more like you're the only person I can get to work on this movie. Which I mean, like he didn't Warren Beatty. I don't know in 1965, but he has a pretty bad reputation.
Yeah. Well, at the end of this movie, they hand him an envelope and he says La La Land accidentally, and then just like this whole big thing
Well,
blows up.
he didn't say
Yeah, I
La La
know.
Land. It
I
was
know.
his girlfriend in the movie.
It was Faye Dunaway, I know, but
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm just joshing but what a moment. His look
it
of like,
was
oh.
I mean, like even he's like, this can't be right.
Yeah, this is wrong. No, but yeah, I don't recommend this movie. You could do so
No.
much better. It's just very mediocre in my opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it. There's better Warren Beatty movies and there's better French New Wave movies.
Exactly. I'd say go somewhere else. But I guess that wraps it up for this one. But Ryan,
Yes.
what are we covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, I'd like to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, wow. Hi, Ryan's mom.
That's right. We're going to be talking about the movie Hi, Mom, and that's
Hmm.
going to be streaming on Tubi right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. And if you want to email us, you can email us at driveandoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to check out our Patreon. But until next time.
Until next time.